I was considering doing this video in as a sort of response to a lot of the chaos and a lot of the carnage that's been resulting over the last couple of days from outbursts in the House of Lords regarding comments about the conflicts between Israel and Hamas, and a lot about how Stephen Flynn has actually sort of made a very interesting case for himself when arguing towards Lindsay Hoyle himself, the Speaker of the House, and how there's even more news about how a certain image that's been actually projected onto the side of Big Ben, and a lot of the right-wing press and certain right-wing MPs are sort of very inexplicably sort of like taken aback as to all of this and why exactly the police aren't doing anything about it. Now, one might argue that because, again, the Daily Mail doesn't pay tax, it would be very, very difficult for anyone to articulate why we need to be outraged because of what the Daily Mail tells us. Also, if technically what they've done is completely legal, we may not. Some people may not agree with it, but if it's legal, then you know what, that's their prerogative and their outlook and stuff like that. But of lately, ladies and gentlemen, this whole shambles, this whole display in the world of politics has got me feeling very, very weary for one reason. Because it shouldn't really be like this. The problem I seem to have when it comes to the outlook of like quite a lot of politicians is the idea that no matter in what context, what they are like in real life, everything is presented to the world as though it's just a bunch of elderly, middle-class people arguing the toss with one another, and nothing actually gets resolved about it. Prime Minister's questions, question time, all that good stuff. It may simply come down to people just getting on television just for the sake of arguing, apart from the case of Newsnight, because no Tory MP would ever turn up for Newsnight, it would seem. And bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, 14 years of the Conservatives in power. I want to remind people that then Prime Minister Theresa May, there were several occasions in which she wouldn't even turn up for a series of debates when she called that snap general election in 2017. The one that she said she wouldn't call and then wouldn't turn up and somehow still won anyway. I've said it before, ladies and gentlemen, I'll say it again. You know what? The public wants what the public gets. If that's your idea of leadership, ladies and gentlemen, then go right ahead. And that brings me on to this, is that, well, personally speaking, what sort of politician would I follow? Or what sort of politician would I want to model myself after? Because it's all very well and good, ladies and gentlemen, to fight your corner and look popular, but it's also quite a different thing when you are saying the right things and you're doing the right things, but the overall image you're trying to convey is something else entirely. And it's something that a lot of politicians severely underestimate about the British public, is that if people are going to be geared towards the more personalities, are they approachable? Is it easy to get along with them? Can we see things from the way they see it? If you can nail those sorts of things down, then theoretically, then the whole system of trying to gain power in Parliament should be as easy as it gets. So, in that vein, ladies and gentlemen, the sort of politician that I probably would follow is someone who is very, very wise. Not clever necessarily, but someone who has had experience, somebody who knows a lot about the world, somebody who understands that what they ultimately disagree with and what they are absolutely in favor of. Somebody who has a very clear conscience, because there would be very little regarding the judgment of their mind. They know exactly what's going on. They know exactly that it's not right what's going on, and that they want to campaign for any semblance of change. Other aspects is probably more from being a lot of their, perhaps the way they speak, their oration skills would range from probably being speaking at length about trying to exemplify or try to emphasize what they're talking about, but also people who are relatively short and to the point. You don't want to keep people waiting around forever, ladies and gentlemen, but if you could also demonstrate to me that you mean business and it's done in such a way that it's so easy to understand that it'll make a lot of people easier to get on your side as well, because why would you want to alienate yourself from voters by speaking jargon that no ordinary human being is ever going to use? And finally, ladies and gentlemen, the sort of we talked earlier a little bit about image, which is why I think it's also within my interest to follow somebody who is just polite, somebody who is softly spoken, somebody who doesn't interrupt people, but is more than enough times expected to be interrupted. He's somebody who doesn't take things for granted, somebody who shows appreciation for the public, somebody who is respectful to his colleagues, somebody who is respectful to even the people who are theoretically are on the other end of the scale, somebody who you would almost expect to see in public and not be surrounded by police and not to be heckled, to be booed, just somebody to work alongside everybody else in society. So it's almost on the lines of, I'm trying to think of like on the top of my head about who would sort of like fit in with this sort of image I'm trying to build as the sort of politician that I would follow. But even so, this is the sort of thing that is probably going to vary largely from like person to person. Some people may argue that the image that Nigel Farage even orchestrates is very effective because, well, he seems to talk in the ear of a very, very minor population of the United Kingdom. But minor they may be, they are still have a voice in their corner. And you know what? There are plenty of other people, like Jeremy Corbyn, for example, would probably be someone that would fit the bill a little bit about what I'm talking about, because he's been around since at least the mid 80s. And to be honest, the way he like conducts himself is, again, very, very well. But the problem is that when it came to the run up to the 2017 election, there were a lot of things that he should have been on the ball with like a lot sooner. Like if somebody was being questioned about very serious accusations of anti-Semitism, you'd want to get that seen to immediately. You would want to hold an inquiry. I mean, I even said this when this was going on. You want to hold an inquiry immediately. You want to get to the very, very bottom of this. And once you do, and you conduct whatever business needs to be conducted, you do that and you move on immediately. And then you get back to what you were talking about. If you get your eyes off the ball about things that really matter to people, if you get away from all this, the entire house is going to come down. And at this moment, ladies and gentlemen, let's think about this. Supermarkets ripping off every single person that just walks in there. I'm not kidding, ladies and gentlemen. This whole cost of living crisis is turning into just a fancy way of extorting people. We'll call it a crisis. We'll call it a business opportunity. We call it, you know what, infrastructure is great. The economy is on the boom, blah, 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 even though we've just fell back into recession in the last 4 days. The Prime Minister seems somewhat taken aback at the fact that he seems to think that we've had a tough year. No, other people have had a tough year. Rishi Sunak has been the richest Prime Minister in history. I don't necessarily think he knows, like, the absolute horrors and the misery of poverty. Maybe that's the other thing that sort of like caught my eye, ladies and gentlemen, is that what do the politicians of today, ladies and gentlemen, truly know about poverty? You may argue people like Angela Rayner or Rachel Reeves came from very poor backgrounds. Some of them are working single mothers, and actually there's a lot about poverty that they know really well. And, well, Then comes the other case, ladies and gentlemen, is that maybe the reason why people are not, say, embracing of people who actually represent their corner is because even working class people are very, very apathetic about those who are even poorer than them, and even more so about those who are even richer. Because nothing can say towards a threat to a person's liberty is somebody who, like me, for example, who works for a living, who tries to make his life better, and then he has to pay for things at rather extortionate prices, while there are also people who are, in theory, on the same economic level as him, who are earning either less but are otherwise very apathetic about the whole business and will lay the blame at everybody else, even those who are theoretically on his side, because they feel that they're entitled to more than they are actually allowed to receive. I'll probably have to make a follow-up video about all this, about how the working class will even just turn on each other, and how that people who we should be on the same side, but nobody is, because it's every man for himself in this country. Which is why, again, just to bring it back to my original case before we close off, is the fact that the sort of person that, to be honest, I would follow very closely, maybe in Parliament at this very moment in time, maybe someone that I haven't even known of is speaking among this time, but you know what? With all this noise going on, then why don't I throw my hat into the ring? Why don't I represent myself as who I am, and let that be a sort of guidance for people to look up to, or it might even prove to be very successful in the long run. Just restore a little bit of harmony, restore a little bit of peace to the world, and you know what? Let's give peace a chance. That could be almost like my mission statement. If I was ever to start a party of my own, that would be like my mission statement is give peace a chance. And who knows, ladies and gentlemen, again, with conflicts, wars, bombings, everything like that, hoping in just the last 2 months, is it not right and just that actually there are some people who are more keen to see things be restored, or for there to be some level of harmony and friendship between man and man? We should be learning how to work together, not fight each other. Now, that is a mission statement and a half, and hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, this is something that I want to keep going and make, really push this statement as much as I can. So, good luck, ladies and gentlemen. Good luck.